I'll pull back my cynicism.
All good. All right. So we'll probably have people start joining.
Oh, I'll wait just a second and I'll share a screen once, I guess. Does it tell us who?
You should, can you see the attendees?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
I can.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Perfect.
Cool. I'll go ahead and share my screen so you guys have something pretty to look at while we wait.
Yeah, you don't need to look at us.
Just stare at us.
Perfect. I'll give just another minute or two to let people kind of get in, and then we will get started.
Sounds great. I'll just say while you guys are hopping in, I'll mention this again, but if you all want to share maybe your name, your business name, and a social link, whether that's like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, something like that you're active on, and then we can sort of follow each other and support each other afterwards.
Yeah. Glenda, I see your hand raised, so I'm going to allow you to talk now so you can go ahead and, do you have a question? You're muted if you are asking anything.
Oh, we're good. Just
Okay.
making sure that, we're here.
All right, good, perfect. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. I will, hold on one second. All right, cool. All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm sure more will continue to join us. And as Christy mentioned, you can go ahead and put your Instagram handle and your name, just say hello in the chat. We'll use that to communicate. You can put questions in there. And Christy will go over some housekeeping, but we'll hold questions till the end. And want to assure you that the submitted questions you put through ahead of time will also get to make sure we respond to those. I will welcome you. My name is Diana McMahon. I am a team member of In Unison, and we are so grateful to both Paige from the Richmond Experience and to Christy from Campfire & Co. for joining us today. They have an excellent presentation for you all on something that I know runs heavy for all of us, which is social media and marketing and how that all works for us. And so we're going to take kind of the foundational approach and then do a deeper dive on some of the tactical stuff. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christy and she will kick it off.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Real quick, Diana, I just wanted to mention, I saw in the Q&A, it looks like the chat might be disabled. I don't know if you can enable it, but we'll see.
Yes, I will fix that.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, y'all. There's always a little bit of technical glitches. We are stoked to be here. Thanks so much for joining us. We are thrilled to have you here to learn about making your social sizzle. Social media is constantly changing. We were just talking about all the sort of ups and downs we've been navigating lately as small business owners and working in the small business community. And we know that there are lots of new ways of engaging with audiences and that you guys are really interested in learning more about that. So today we're going to share our tried and true tips so that you can make the most of your content creation. Before we dive in, just wanted to say thanks so much, Diana, for having us. Thanks so much, Paige, for being willing to hop on this and work on this workshop together. Last time we hung out with the In Unison crew was pre-pandemic, which seems like a lifetime ago. But we're really, really excited to be back and hang out with you guys again. So thanks so much. I already mentioned the chat, so won't go over that again. So hopefully that'll be enabled now. Yeah, it looks like it is. So that's great. If you guys want to just drop a link to your social, then we can follow each other and support each other there. We want this conversation to be interactive. We're going to kind of go through some talking points and some pro tips and some examples, and then we would love to have a discussion at the end and answer all of your sort of burning questions. Okay, so to kick off our introductions, I want to pass it over to Paige.
Hi, everyone. I am Paige Poprocky. I am the social media manager at the Richmond Experience. I have had the pleasure of working with some of you to promote your businesses, but in case you don't know us, the Richmond Experience is the locals guide to the best of what to do, see, eat, and drink and experience in the city. We also have a membership, and it's the best way to stay in the know about Richmond's social scene. Over the last 5 years, we have grown our social media community to more than 97,000 followers, and our weekly email subscriber list to more than 3,500 paying members. We know it takes a lot to build an audience, and we're here to help share some tips on how to do the same.
Awesome. Thanks, Paige. I feel like when we first started working with Sam at the Richmond Experience a couple of years ago, I think you guys maybe had half that amount of following or maybe even a third. It's so impressive to see how much you guys have grown. So I'm Christy Thompson. I'm one of the partners at Campfire & Co. If you're not familiar, we are a design studio here in Richmond. We help out small and mid-sized businesses with branding and interior design. And we've got a small but mighty team of 6 that has worked with over 250 brands in Richmond, which is really crazy to think about, but we are super humbled and honored to have been a part of so many businesses growing here in the city. Needless to say, we love helping local businesses create experiences that get them noticed. So what are we going to talk about today? Let's get into it. As I was sort of setting up our agenda here, I was thinking a little bit about our title of making your social sizzle and thinking about being in the kitchen and kind of going along with that play on that title. We're going to start out with the mise en place. We're going to get all of our stuff together, right? So we're going to talk about finding your voice, understanding your audience, and setting some goals. Then we're going to go ahead and get cooking, and we're going to do some content planning and then some content creation. And then finally, we're going to ask everybody how everything tasted, also known as evaluating our success and really adjusting that recipe or that plan. All right. Going to go ahead and dive in. So before you start capturing video or brainstorming ideas, we really want to know who is talking and how they talk. So what does that mean? We are talking about creating a brand personality. So even if you haven't actually articulated this just yet, you actually have one. If you've been talking on social, if you've ever written copy for your website, if you've written an email, all of those things are part of your brand voice. What does that really mean though? Personality, voice. Basically what we're talking about is if your brand were to spring to life and hang out with us, maybe go to have coffee, go to happy hour, we want to think about what that person would be like. What are their defining character traits, their motivations? We really want to create this and intentionally and really get to know this person. So the next question you might ask yourself is why? Like, why do I need a brand personality? Why does that matter? And what we have found, and really what studies have shown, is that having a brand personality, it helps you stand out from the crowd. It makes you different. It also helps you connect with your audience. It helps you build trust, build recognition. If you think about your favorite brands, you probably like them for more than just the fact that the product or service that they sell is really high quality. You like them because the way that they interact with you has some sort of meaning or connection. A brand personality also helps you know what's a good fit and what's not a great fit, especially when it comes to content. So if you think about if your personality is maybe a little bit more formal and professional, then maybe creating a reel about, fashion or something is probably not a great fit for you. So thinking about how those two things connect is important. Okay, so now we know why it matters and what it is. Let's talk about some pro tips for actually creating your own. So we like to start out by, when we're working with clients, to start out by creating basically a persona. So what we're thinking about is kind of crafting a character, basically. We want to think about that person's lifestyle. We want to think about those sort of defining character traits. We want to think about what makes them tick. What is the thing that motivates them to live life? You can start out by creating that from scratch, or you can start to think about characters that you might be familiar with, or even dive into brand archetypes, which is like a whole field of basically organizing character traits into different categories. So once you've started to ideate on that sort of lifestyle, it's time to layer in tone of voice. So you want to think about more than just what does this person do for a living and what are their passions and their hobbies, but we want to think about what is it like to talk to them. Are they super talkative and really bubbly? Are they witty and a little irreverent? Are they educational and straightforward? Are they empathetic and calming? All of these kinds of things are sort of key traits that you can layer into your tone of voice. You can start by ideating those on your own, or you can sort of Google a list of tone of voice traits if that helps you, or you can take a peek at like a sliding scale. There are sort of different scales out there that you can look at that will sort of show you, okay, if there was a scale from formal to informal, where might your voice fall? From funny to serious, where might your voice fall? These are all sort of exercises that you can do to hone in on your exact personality and tone of voice. From there, one of the things that we like to do with clients also is to identify a character or a celebrity as an alter ego. This is just something that gives you a really quick recognition in your mind. So when you go to write from your brand's tone of voice, when you think about writing a caption, writing copy for your website, anything like that, you can kind of immediately think of that celebrity or that character, and you sort of kind of bring something to mind super quickly. So if you think about, if maybe Jennifer Lawrence, you think about her, she's kind of like silly, but she's very down to earth, but she's very talented, but people really like connecting with her. You could imagine her voice is very like friendly, but a little bit quirky, maybe a little irreverent. Those are all the kind of things that just immediately come to mind because I have a vision of who she is. So you can think about and identify that celebrity or character as your alter ego. And then finally, thinking about a list of maybe example statements or kind of keywords, maybe some brand language that your persona might use. If you consider your industry, if there are specific words that people use in your industry, and do you use those words yourself, or do you have your own way of doing that? Maybe considering how you start out an email or how you sign your salutation or something. These are all aspects of how we sort of employ our brand voice. So it's really great idea to consider those intentionally and come up with a list and really agree on that with your team and have everybody understand it. So the group of you that might be writing from the brand's tone of voice will kind of all be on the same page. And then lastly, before we head into audience, if you get stuck in this section, one of our pro tips is always to just do a little bit of research on your brand crushes. So if there's another company out there that you feel like does a great job of, writing social captions or email newsletters, go ahead and do some research and kind of see what you feel like is in alignment with your brand or your industry and use that as inspiration. Okay. So once you've got your brand voice and you feel confident about it and you've committed to it, it's time to think about who we are talking to, right? So we're not just yelling at everyone. We are really trying to speak to and connect meaningfully with a specific group of folks. So basically, audience is a category that we could have an entire workshop on its own. But I just want you guys to think about a couple key aspects of your audience as you consider your content and your brand voice. There are a lot of different ways to get to know your audience, from analytics to surveys, talking to them directly, anecdotal, but I really mostly want you to think about and empathize with who they are and what's important to them. So what pain points do they have? What do they want to learn? What questions do they ask? Do you have like a list of questions that folks tend to ask you over and over? This is maybe telling you something about maybe something that is confusing to them or something that your audience tends to want to know more about. What entertains them? Who else do they follow on social and what do they like? And where else do they engage? If you know that they come into your brick and mortar and talk to you in person, where else do they go? Do they hang out around you locally? Where else do they exist online? These are all just sort of moments where we can get to know our audience a little bit better. And the more we get to know them, the more we can speak directly to them, connect with them, and create content that's meaningful to them. So you might have a couple different segments or groups in terms of your audience, and you want to just make sure that you ask yourself these questions about each of those groups. Okay, so once you're feeling confident about your voice and your audience, we want you to consider creating some goals.
So you want to ask yourself, what do you want social to do for you? Your goals will help you determine what makes sense for you to post. So for example, if your goals can look like, hey, I want more reservations, or I want more people stopping by my business. Maybe you want more web clicks, or you want more sales. You also might want to educate your audience about your business or a specific thing. And you might want increased engagement, or you might want to increase your followers. You don't have to have a ton of goals. We suggest maybe having or start with one or two. And your goals might shift from season to season or year over year. You should keep your goals written down and somewhere handy so you can refer back to them when planning or brainstorming your content. And consider adding metrics to your goals so you know when you've hit them. So for example, if your big goal is hitting 10K followers, write that down and track it every month just so you know if you are reaching your goal, or maybe you need to look at it and re-examine it again.
Yeah. So when thinking about all of those, we pulled together a couple examples of folks that we feel like are doing a great job of embodying their voice, talking directly to their audience, and having a clear goal in mind, at least from what we can see on the outside. So first up, I've got Richmond Animal Care and Control, the local city shelter. And so you can see they've got a great photo. They've got funny, friendly, laid back text. They've got really helpful and accurate information in their caption. And it's super easy to read. It's broken down kind of with spaces in there. So you can just immediately see exactly what it is that you want. And it ends with not only a call to action, but information that helps you know when you should arrive. So I think this is really hitting it out of the park in terms of 10 out of 10 of having accurate information, having a nice brand voice, and layering that with some high quality photography. Carry Town Cupcakes in the middle. I wanted to point out, I feel like they've really embraced a little bit more of like a cheeky sort of funny personality. And you can kind of see that in not only them being very like personable and friendly in their tone of voice, but also in just the description or sort of titles of their products, and kind of creating like a WTF bar is not something that is like super, you know, maybe even kid friendly, but what they've done there is they've kind of they've really owned who they are as a personality, and they want their personality to be a little irreverent, a little cheeky, and so they're embracing that. And the third one here is Belle Isle Moonshine. I think Belle Isle really hits it out of the park when it comes to combining a really recognizable voice with super high quality photography. So if you follow Belle Isle, you know, it feels like you're just talking to a friend. They've really honed in on kind of this like very like trendy millennial Gen Z sort of voice that comes from the brand. They're using kind of slang, they're using all caps, they're being very silly and laid back. And it makes me not only want to read it, but follow them. And just so I can kind of like get the joke and be a part of it. And kind of below this exact part of the text here, you're also going to get a recipe. So they're doing something else there. We're providing value. They're actually giving me something that I might want to save for later. So I think they've done a great job at figuring out what is interesting to their audience, what kind of voice will be meaningful. And they're sort of putting all that together in a really great post.
So you have all that other stuff out of the way, and now it's actually time to start planning your content. Content creation takes a lot of time and it can be very daunting. So just think of these 5 bullet points as a roadmap to get you started. First things first is get the basics right. I'm going to talk a lot about your Instagram bio. So start thinking about that now. Is it up to date? Do you have accurate information there? Do you have your link? Do you have your website? What do you want to share about? So you're going to brainstorm and organize some ideas. You're going to make a pattern, and then you're going to schedule your content just like you would schedule an appointment. And then obviously, next, you're going to create it. So first things first is your Instagram bio. Your bio should have your hours, accurate information, and a link. Your audience and customers will check your bio for important information, so hit it off right away. We personally love Bovine Burger. It lists their hours, their brunch, their happy hour, seating information, and it links to their website so their audience can check out their menu or make a reservation. I also personally love their use of emojis. Celadora Wines is very similar. They have the same concept: address, hours, how to make a reservation, and a link to their website. If you have more than one link you want to share, you can always set up a link tree, and that is free. Fountain Bookstore has a great one. So they have all their socials available right at the top: their Facebook, their Instagram, their YouTube. And then below, they have a campaign that they are promoting right now. They have a link to their events, and then they also have a link on how to join their, I believe it's book clubs. So even though it's all directing to their one website, they're making it really easy on their audience on how to find specific things. So if you're a restaurant, maybe you want to link to your menu. Maybe you want to link to make a reservation. If you're trying to sell an event, make sure that link is available. It just makes it super easy on your audience, and that's what we want social to do. Next up is you want to brainstorm and organize ideas. So Christy made this awesome visual to show you the idea of brainstorming, organizing, and creating content. So just a couple things: you might want to tell a story, you might want to share your history, you might just want to share what's going on. Always consider your audience and what's interesting and important to them. So this example, we created a list to come up with some themes of content, and then we expanded under each theme, like with specific ideas. So some food and beverage ideas: food specials, drink specials, interior photos. A lot of times restaurants just post about food, but we also want to know, what's the inside look like? What is our experience? How are we going to feel when we go there? And then underneath, you can do visual categories. You can, okay, if I'm taking a picture of food, here are all the things I can take. I can take drink specials, I can do bestsellers, I can do pairings, I can share reviews. And then of course, your experience photos, interior photos. You might want to share about special events. It's always important to share about your staff. People want to build relationships with the people that they're going to the business. So they want to form relationships with you. And then we have pattern ideas. You might want to ask yourself, is this a blog post? Is this a series? Is this a reel? Or is this just a story on Instagram? And always consider what people are asking you. Christy's going to kind of take the lead on what it means to make a pattern.
Yeah, so this is something that Campfire, we certainly didn't invent it, but we came up with it at some point. And it has really revolutionized how we plan our social content. So I'll take us to the next slide and kind of give you a little bit more of a visual here. So we have multiple services that we offer, and we're also in a really visual field. So it was really important to us to balance both what our feed looks like as well as kind of what it's showing and what it's talking about. So you can kind of see an example here within this sketch of basically kind of an every other pattern. It's showing maybe something a little bit more busy and maybe something a little bit more simple. And then with Coco Lemon, their local hair salon, an example of how they have used this. So they have a mixture of sort of promoting events and education. And so their pattern looks like partially, in-person experiences, hair pictures. And then the other, sort of visual of that is like a more graphic photo. So you get this really nice patterned version. Your pattern does not have to be every other image, and it does not have to be just visuals. Your pattern could be sort of something that maybe you only notice and isn't necessarily obvious to your followers, because you can switch up maybe the content category or a project type or a phase of something. And when you're thinking about switching it up by visual, you can also do that in more ways than just image versus graphic. You can switch things up in terms of something being very minimal versus something being very complex, a lighter image versus a darker image. These are all things that just kind of help make your feed look more cohesive, as well as helps you think about what you're going to plan or post next without having to kind of reinvent the wheel every time. And I think I mentioned this before, but it doesn't have to be every other post. For instance, Campfire's Instagram, we have kind of like a three post pattern where we have each topic or idea that we post about. We do 3 images for that topic because we really want to make sure our followers see what we're talking about. And typically we are sharing a link to a blog post, which is something that takes a little bit more time to create. And we really want to make sure that our followers are seeing that content. And so what we've learned is that we've got to post more times about something in order to get people to actually click on it and read it and kind of get the impact we want out of creating that content. So you can play around with a lot of different ways of creating a pattern. You can start small, you can make something more complex. But this is a great way to start to think about your sort of long-term vision for what you want.
So after you kind of figured all of that out, you can plan your content. And we plan our content for the Richmond experience, but it's a little different and everybody's going to be different. It just depends on your goals and what you want to share to your audience. But you can schedule content and stories in advance with different tools. We personally at the Richmond experience use Asana and Planoly. And we do not have like a set pattern like Campfire does with the 3 in a row, but we do have a weekly schedule for our feed that we follow it pretty loosely. Our story content, however, stays very consistent. And if you are a follower of the Richmond experience, you might notice our pattern or you might not. It's mostly for us to stay organized. But it is also, our audience likes consistency. So every Monday, they know that I will be posting the top events. So it is consistency for your audience, but it's also consistency for yourself. So I plan all of the Richmond experience content on Monday. I put it all in Planoly, and that means that the captions are done. That means that the photos are ready to go. And it's just when it's time to post, I get a notification and I post it. It just kind of, it's out of sight, out of mind. I know it's done, and it's just one thing that I get to check off my list. If you're looking at our Planoly, the blue means that they're scheduled. And then you have like the little U, and that means it's unscheduled. So these are just like 2 posts that are coming up, and maybe the copy isn't 100% done. So anytime I get a free moment, I'm just going in there, I'm making sure everything's ready to go. And once it's set and I have it in our content calendar, I'll schedule it. But for example, our stories on Monday are always our top events. On Tuesday, I always talk about our trend spotter and I always plug our TikTok. On Wednesday, I always talk about the weekly insider. On Thursday, I always talk about the weekender. And then on Friday, I always share some relevant city guides. And that's just our stories. And that's what stays consistent for us. Our feed, it's just a mix of experiences, places, and people that we want to share about.
That's great. And then you can kind of see how Campfires is a little bit different, where we kind of have this like 3-up visual here. And you can see using Planoly, which is a content planner, that we a lot of times will plan out pretty far without actually knowing what images we want to use yet. And so I've just got kind of my projects there, and I've got blue versus pink just means like the type of post. So for us, blue is more like a graphic or like a, branding service, and pink is more of like real photos, people, or interiors. So that just helps me make sure that I'm balancing my goals in terms of sharing lots of variety in terms of our services. But that's just Instagram. And we all know that content and social is bigger than that. So I'm going to kind of show you this a little bit more of like an all-in-one content planning example. Yours doesn't have to be this complex, but this is what I have found works for me personally. This is just a Google sheet that I made based on trying to balance the things that were important to Campfire's content goals. So I've created 4 different categories that are kind of loosely related to the categories we use on our blog. And then I have where I want the content to live. So it could be just an Instagram post, but a lot of times what I want to do is put it on my blog so that I can send people back to my website. And then I have what content is actually going to go there, what visual I might use. This helps me pre-plan and pull people in if I need to delegate, hey, I need somebody to create these 3 images for me, or in 2 months, I would need photography for this project. Let's make sure we get that scheduled. And then I have kind of what service it's promoting. That helps me make sure I'm getting variety there. And then is there anywhere else I want to push to, or is there any specific date that's like really tied to like this thing is launching on this date? I definitely want to post about it this week. And so what I do is typically I spend some time in this document, maybe every 4-6 weeks. And then weekly, I take a look at Planoly for kind of that more like specific weekly planning. You guys can find whatever works for you. There's a lot of different planners out there, but it is really important that this stuff is done early, because then it makes the content creation part of it so much easier.
All right, now it's time to finally create your content. Just a friendly reminder to always start easy and build up to the hard stuff. And remember to always refer to your goals. Ask yourself, why do you want to post this? And make sure you answer those questions. So get set up is first. That means create a space to work on your content planning and creation. If you have everything there and ready, you'll be able to take more content, and it's just easy for you. You'll want to think about great lighting, acoustics if you're taking a video, backdrops, all of that. If you're not comfortable taking your own photos, you might want to consider hiring a professional photographer. And this just can be done quarterly, and you can always reuse the content, and it takes some of the stress off of you. Schedule a weekly time to plan your content, and then make time to create your content. Batch edit when you can. So that just means you can spend a day taking a ton of content, then edit it, make your copy, and just get it all done at once. So for example, I often take a lot of reel content on the weekends. I might go out to like 3 or 4 businesses, take a ton of content, and then on Monday, I make 3 or 4 reels. That includes editing the video, creating a script copy, doing voiceover work, and then writing the caption copy. So that does bring me to reels. You can record and edit clips set to trending music and add filters or text on Instagram. Reels are great because they are suggested to users based on their interests, making them a great way to tap into new and relevant audiences. So we recommend using trending audio. This makes your reels reach a wider audience. So you can find the latest trending audios on you can go to different places to find these. In TikTok, they're always under trending audio, but I personally use the Instagram Reels tips. Every week she puts out, I think it's 5 trending audio songs. And if they match the content I'm using, I use it. She's really helpful, and it's really down to earth, and I just love getting her advice. If video seems daunting, a great place to start is by just using photos in a reel. That's where I kind of tell all my friends to start. Just find several photos you like, add some trending music to the background, and you have your first reel. Start small. You might just want to take a little simple video with a trending song and add a great caption. And then you can just slowly add additions to your reels, like text overlay, voiceovers, transitions. You can edit your videos right in the app. So either TikTok or Instagram, depending on your comfort level. You can do voiceover, add your music, speed up, slow down, and add text overlay right in the app. If you want to use bigger editors, you can, like iMovie or Splice. But if you're just small, I suggest just starting in the apps. And fun fact, I just do everything in Reels and TikTok. I do not use other editors. I just use the apps. I find them easy and I've learned them. So that's just what I use. Make sure you write good captions. So make it accessible and easy, and always answer who, what, where, when, and why. And think about your brand voice. So go back to that. Like the Richmond Experience, we have a specific brand voice. We like to be your best friend telling you what's cool in Richmond. Just remember to be consistent. How you write your times, your dates, your grammar, just keep a consistent voice so your audience kind of just knows. And you can make it easy and make a template for your captions and even your reels. If you've ever noticed our captions on the Richmond Experience, we always include the business address, their website, their hours, even their phone number. We always include, hey, use our hashtag, and then we always have a call to action to join our membership. So all of your posts really do need a call to action. Think about the why. Why are you posting this? Are you posting it for your audience to tap the link in your bio to make a reservation? Are you sharing about an event that you want people to buy tickets to? Just make sure you're saying that at the end, and then make sure your bio is up to date with that information, because you don't want to tell your audience to, hey, go to your website, and there's no website to go to. You just want to make it as easy as you can on your audience. You can also have your call to action be, hey, tag a friend below. Hey, share this with your friend. It doesn't have to be always directing them to your website. It can just be, hey, share this with a friend. We hope to see you there. And some best practices, it's okay to reuse video. I'm constantly reusing content between the apps like TikTok and Reels. I also reuse a lot of content in stories. Like if I go to a business, a couple months later, I still might use that content. I have a lot of photos and videos on my phone. It's frightening. And then also, I do reuse some photos on our feed, but I kind of wait a while. I wait like a year, but that's just me. I think it's okay if it's relevant, just kind of, space it out a little bit. You can reuse on your website, in your email marketing. There are lots of ways to reuse the photography or video content that you take. And just remember to be creative and have fun. This is a creative outlet, and just have fun with it. A couple examples of some Instagram feeds that I'm in love with. I personally love Plant House. They have a fantastic green and lush feed. Excuse me. They use photos, reels, and graphics to share about their workshops, plants, and plant education. I love how they show what their workshops are like with their reels. So they'll take a reel of a workshop. So I know what I'm getting myself into. I know what I'm making. I know what the experience is going to be like. And it's not like a fantastic video. It's not like there's a huge production crew. It's just somebody taking some videos and putting some text overlay and some music to it. And then, you know what? It makes me want to go buy and go to a workshop because I know exactly what I'm getting. They also, what I notice, I think they're just using an iPhone for a lot of their photos. They're taking them outside, so you have nice bright light, and it just is a great feed because it has a mix of everything, graphics, photos, and reels, and I know what I'm getting myself into. Another great one is Sierra Spaka. We love the product, but we also love their Instagram. Their social tells a story about their brand. And you can tell that they do hire a professional photographer. So their feed is very aesthetically pleasing. But a lot of it is directing us to go to the link in their bio to either get delivery with Cirrus or come to visit. So they have great call to actions. They also use a variety of photos, reels, and graphics to share about their product.
Yeah, that's great, Paige. I think too, like one of the things about Cirrus that we've noticed is that they've done a great job of, I think maybe even hiring one of their staff is basically a part-time photographer. And I think that, if you are in an industry where having really high quality photography often is important to you, you might think about having somebody like that on a retainer, or basically someone on your staff who can just be doing that constantly. Not everybody wants to learn how to do that, or any current roles maybe might not want to take that on. But if you have the opportunity to bring that into the fold, it can make a big impact in your marketing. I also wanted to show some kind of behind the scenes stuff that, oftentimes, especially when we're looking at those like beautiful examples, it looks like, wow, they make it look so easy, right? And we want you to know that it's a little bit messy behind the scenes, and that's totally okay. You can take photos with your iPhone. You can ask your clients to walk outside and stand in front of a white wall so you can get natural light. Like, these are the things that we have to do to create good quality content. And that sometimes it can feel a little bit like awkward and a little messy while you're doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should feel totally fine about that. The examples here, I've got a hairstylist, Rachel Lane. She was talking about literally how it feels awkward to ask your clients to take photos of your work because it's on their body, their hair. But that's how you build a following, and that's how you show off your work. And so getting comfortable with it is important, or just embracing the awkwardness. And then I also wanted to show you a little behind the scenes photo of Greensville Growers. They did a photo shoot with a professional photographer, and they collaborated with a chef and a kitchen where they went there. We spent a couple hours and laid out a bunch of things so that we could then show photos. I think this is from LinkedIn actually, but of making it look like it just happened by accident, that we happened to catch like an in the moment beautiful photo of somebody making the perfect salad. But in actuality, that was a very organized ordeal. And I just want to remind you all that it does sometimes take a little bit of work, but with some intentionality. They'll do this photo shoot and they'll probably use those photos for the next 9 months. They probably won't do another formal photo shoot with a photographer, I would imagine, for at least the next 6 to 8 months. And so it doesn't have to be something you do often, but if you can really make the most of it when you have the opportunity, it can really, really help you out long term. Okay.
So after you post, now you want to evaluate and adjust. Data, did it perform well? Make sure you're checking your insights. I check them often and frequently. Do people say they like it? Did you get some comments? Did you get a DM? Think about if your audience liked it. And then, did you like doing it? Did you like making that reel? Did you like taking those photos? Did you like making that copy? Because obviously we want you to like making your content because it is fun. At this point, confirm your goals. Maybe you want to create new goals. I'm constantly taking a pulse of our Instagram and what our audience likes and dislikes. I'm looking at insights. I kind of just take a pulse every month or so. We do a lot of data tracking and spreadsheets to see where we're at, like I'm sure every small business does. So it's just important to take a pulse. It is important. You also want to adjust, maybe you want to adjust your pattern, or maybe you want to adjust your content types, and then just try again and don't give up.
No, 100%. I wouldn't say I look at my analytics monthly, but we definitely look at them quarterly. And that was something that I think personally I had to get over a little bit of like fear of looking at and tracking analytics, because I wasn't really sure. I just didn't feel like I didn't feel super confident in the idea of understanding what all of it was. But the thing with analytics is that the way you learn from it is by looking at it frequently, right? So if you don't have any sort of time elapsed, you know, in terms of when you're checking it, it can be tough to know whether or not you're actually moving the needle. So I would encourage you, even if you feel a little bit of discomfort with it, to try looking at your analytics. And as far as like adjusting your pattern and content, that's something that Campfire has done a lot. We, like I was mentioning before, we used to have an every other pattern, and then we moved that to doing 3 posts on a particular topic, because we felt like we were putting all of this effort into creating some really great blog content, and then nobody was seeing it because we weren't posting about it enough. So knowing that even though you've created something, if it doesn't work, you know, you can try again and move on. And before we wrap up, we wanted to share just like a couple of the resources we've been talking about today. You can grab a screenshot of this if you want. I won't go super in depth here, but Planoly is a content planner that I know both Paige and the Richmond Experience and Campfire really love. I love it especially because it's visual. Google Sheets, obviously it's just a spreadsheet, using a spreadsheet, but it's basic and it works. Linktree is something that we mentioned for creating multiple links in a bio link. You can also create your own Linktree on your own website. That's what Campfire has done. Instead of having a separate website, we just made a page on our website with a couple different buttons. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. If you feel tech savvy, I would suggest try doing it on your website. If you feel like that's way too much, then just do a Linktree. InShot, Splice, and iMovie are video and photo editors. And so Splice is a little bit more expensive. InShot is a little bit cheaper. I just happened to learn those before I learned how to edit video in the apps. So that's like my preference. But if you can figure out how to do it in the apps and learn that way, that's great too, because it's free. And then a couple other photo and graphic editors. Lightroom is one that we like a lot for editing photos. If you have an Adobe subscription, that one, you can get that for free. Lens Buddy, this is kind of a random one, but if you take photos often where you're using like a timer and you need to take photos of your team, something like that, it is just an app that lets you take like 10 different photos at increments in a row. So you can have like basically get a good timer photo. Canva, I think most people know what Canva is these days, but it's super useful to help just to sort of templatize some of your creations and be able to do graphic and photo editing on the fly. Okay, bravo, you guys made it to the end. Thanks so much for being here. We want to just quickly recap. If this felt overwhelming, the core things we want you to remember are: establish your voice, create some goals, then start ideating, organizing, and scheduling content, then spend some time creating and publishing it. And then finally, don't forget to evaluate your success and update your plan.
So we want you to know that we're here for you. Our team at the Richmond Experience can help with getting the word out about your business on social media to increase your reach, follower count, engagement rate, and more. Sending more Richmonders to your lead and ultimately impacting your revenue. We also can help with brand awareness through our website and weekly emails, and we can share information about your business with our members directly and send them your way. Campfire provides services including branding and graphic design, website design, and interior design. And we believe in you. We hope you've taken away some digestible bits about social media so you can go forth and conquer. You know how to reach us for help, and we hope to connect soon. And I think now we'll kind of take some questions if you have them.
Perfect, thank you. And as I said, you can submit some questions either to the chat or to the Q&A section. You can raise your hand. I might seed one. I think I know there were a couple of people who submitted questions ahead of time, and I do think that you all were able to cover some of those throughout your presentation. One specifically is, do you recommend, actually, how can you get your employees to understand the importance of content creation, encourage them to help in that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first of all, it's being really clear about what your goals are and giving people really specific ways to help. You know, I think that sometimes folks don't always have the same vision that you have every day coming to your office. You know, when I think about my business, I'm constantly thinking about how can I get more people to know who we are and want to work with us. And I think most of my designers are thinking about how can I make the design in front of me better, right? And so they don't have the same like goals at the beginning of the day as I do. And so what I've tried to do is to be really clear about the plan, to talk about what I'm doing on social often. We have a monthly team meet, a weekly team meet, and I talk about our plan for what we're doing with business development and marketing every week so that everybody on the team knows what we're trying to do. I try to get people involved in terms of actually like I have a reoccurring meeting with one of my team members who has like a little bit of a marketing background. And so we have talked to him about like the fact that we really would love to kind of capitalize on his experience and his knowledge and to integrate that into our social work. And so I meet with him monthly to brainstorm and to talk about it. So I think just kind of sometimes like being a little bit more formal about it can be something to be really, to make people feel empowered, for them to feel like they understand what the big picture vision is, and then for them to have a specific moment where they're being asked to think about it and to support it. And then finally, I'll say, I mean, even my business partners who obviously have the same goals and vision for the growth of the company as I do, still have a hard time remembering that when they go to a site visit, they need to take video. Like they're so used to doing photography that getting people to remember to take video is tough. And so I just say it constantly, I'm reminding them, hey, I see on your calendar, you're going to a site visit, please take some video. So it does take time and it does take a lot of reminders.
That's awesome. A lot of great tips in that. Paige, anything you want to add or?
Communication is key with that. And if you're sharing content with a team, I suggest setting up like a shared folder. That way you have access to the content. We do that with the Richmond Experience. We share content with each other. And it just makes it easier and more accessible.
Totally. Yeah, we have a shared photo stream.
Yeah,
for our team, which is helpful.
Awesome. Next question. I have two more, so I want to make sure we get to both, or a couple more actually. And one is, can you talk about and compare Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for business and response? I guess maybe would you rank or prioritize some of these over the other, or how would you guys answer that question?
I think
Go ahead, Paige.
Of course you don't want all your eggs in one basket. That's kind of what I always tell people. But what do you like? What do you want to use? I think that's important too. I love Instagram. That's what I spend the majority of my time on. I, however, we have a TikTok as well, and it's important to use it, but I think whatever you like and whatever your audience is going towards. I know some Facebooks have a huge following, so obviously that's important. But I think just find what you like and where your audience is and just kind of hone in on that.
100%. I would echo that audience piece to really start to think about that conversation with your team. Because I think at this point, and I mean, the information is generally changing, but usually it's kind of like the oldest demographic is on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then you've got Instagram is more like millennial and TikTok is a little bit more Gen Z. So I would say start with where your audience is. That's where you're going to get the connection that you're looking for, right? And then I think layering in what you like doing is 100% a really important aspect of it, because if you develop a strategy that you don't actually like doing, then you're not going to be consistent with it. And I do think it's important to not put all your eggs in one basket. And the counter to that is just that you can't be great at everything unless you have a super big like bucket of resources to put into social. And so I would say, you know, for Campfire, we put all of our resources in social into Instagram, but we also have the vast majority of our content lives on our blog, and we also have an email list. So those are other places that we put a fair amount of effort into.
Excellent points. Thank you. And once you've started this process, how often do you look back at defined goals / audience and update them?
We look at that quarterly. I wouldn't say our goals have a huge shift on a quarterly basis. Maybe that's more of like an annual basis, like things are gonna maybe make a bigger shift, but I do look at analytics quarterly, and we do try to think about, our analytics telling us something that should shift our plan or our goals, and just check in with the goals to make sure that they still align with kind of our bigger picture vision and goals for the company. So I would say probably in a minimal manner, like quarterly, and definitely annually in a big way.
Awesome. And I have two about timing. So the first is, do you have any recommendations for timing as far as posting? So specific times that do better for posts, and also the frequency of posting. So any algorithm tips, I think, there. And then the second one is, how often should you be posting so as not to overwhelm or annoy your audience?
Well, first things first is analytics, your insights. You can check the time that your audience is checking your stuff. So you can do it like an audit, like, or just checking, but I every once in a while, like quarterly, I'll do an audit to see when our audience is really responding to our feed. And I base that off of that. So if I'm posting in the morning, I post around 11. If I'm posting in the evening, I'm posting between 4 and 6 p.m. But every audience is different. And then how often do we post date? Well, at the Richmond Experience, we post 1 to 2 times a day, but that is a lot. You do not have to do that. Remember, to me, it's quality, not quantity. Always remember that. Remember why you're posting, remember your call to action. And if you have one great post a week, congratulations. Like, I don't think that we need to be posting multiple times a day. This is not TikTok. If you're on TikTok, you'd probably need to be posting like 6 times a day. But Instagram, it's quality, not quantity. So just remember that, and remember why you are posting. If you have a solid post with a solid caption, with a solid call to action, you're good.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. And I would echo that I think posting frequency really depends on your goals, and it depends on what kind of content you're creating. So if you're creating content that's super easy to push out, and you know, you just want to like take a quick photo and share a product that's in your shop or something, and you want to do that and you want it to feel very casual and laid back, I would say maybe you can post every day and it's fine. The way that Campfire posts is we try to like really have something valuable that we're trying to share beyond just like, hey, look at us. And so typically we're trying to share some type of story or some type of resource, and it takes a fair amount of time to create that kind of content. So we typically post, my goal is to post 3 times a week, but I would say I probably more post like 2 times a week. And that's just the cadence that works for me. Like I just can't do it any faster. So it's sort of like you have to balance your goals and your resources. And, you know, if you want your resources to be, you know, deeper and bigger, and you have goals that require more, I would say that's probably when you start to bring in a consultant.
Mm-hmm. That actually is a great lead in to the next question, which was, how do you kind of go about, or good steps for outsourcing / passing off social?
I don't have a ton of specific experience in that, but I will say, if you are a small team and you know that you need to be on social to kind of meet your marketing goals, and you do not have the in-house bandwidth for it, I would say you can start to talk to someone about social. And I think there's a couple of different ways in which you can engage with that, whether that's like just you want someone to help you create the strategy for it so that you can then enact it yourself, or someone who's going to do all of it for you and actually post and create all the copy and everything. But you're looking at I would say like a decent amount per month to pay for high quality social management. I would put it on par with like hiring a PR agency or something like that. Like it's going to cost you in the realm of, I'm going to throw a number out here. Like if somebody does social, like, I'm sorry if this is, I would say somewhere in the realm of like $1,000 to $5,000 a month would be for like high quality social consulting. Do you think that's right, Paige?
Yeah. I mean, social media managers are a thing now. It's crazy. When
Yeah.
I went to school, I did not grow up and want to be this. It happened. But yeah, it all just depends on your goals. And that's what it comes down to. You know, we're here to help, but we do not manage your social. We just kind of like help you a little bit along the way. But there are different PR companies that can help with strategically planning your content.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Very helpful. One more that came through prior to this, and they specifically mentioned mortgage and realty, but how do you build an organic following for a topic that can be otherwise complex and mundane?
Yeah, I honestly feel like sometimes industries that have complexity actually have a ton of opportunity in places like social because your entire goal is to educate. And so the challenge there is just to really make that education fun, right? So like, how do you make it something that people actually want to know about? And I think that is, I would spend a lot of time ideating how you want to make your content interesting to people, and what actually people want to know. So I think that could come from a couple different things. It could just come from you ideating, it could come from you like talking to specific people. I think there's a lot of interest in, things like Zillow and real estate. And I think there's a lot of interest there. I think there's a lot of visual opportunity there in terms of like, just from personal experience, when you post pictures of spaces, they astronomically outperform like graphic design posts. It's just like based on what Instagram rewards. So thinking about like, okay, can we pair cool photos of spaces and houses and things that people like with a tidbit of information that might help them learn more about like mortgages? I think that I'm rambling here a little bit, but I think education is a great like topic for social and for content. And the challenge is just to find a way to make it interesting. Whether that is like keeping it really short and sweet, making it a little funny, making it beautiful. I think there's a number of different ways you could kind of explore that.
Perfect. Paige, anything you want to add to that?
I just think it goes back to finding your voice. And like clearly they have an audience that really loves their content if they have that much of a following. So I'm assuming they might be a little bit whimsical. I don't know the Instagram, but a lot of times if you add a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of fun or humor, it goes a long way. Also, Instagram loves faces. So like if you have a lot of personal touches to your Instagram, people love that. But people also love food too. It depends. It's always just important to go back to your goals, your analytics, your voice, and just kind of hone in and see what works for you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I will wrap it up there to keep us pretty much on time. I just want to say thank you so much to Paige and Christy. This will be available to our attendees after the fact, but please feel free to reach out to both of them. They are both excellent resources here in our community and do a lot of great work. And I encourage you, if there is anything that you want to connect with them about and what they specialize in specifically, I highly encourage that you reach out to either of them. And we just have a huge thank you from In Unison that you all were here with us today and that we were able to provide this opportunity. So anything else, any other closing thoughts from you all?
No, not at all. Just thank you guys so much. And yeah, come hang out with us on Instagram and we'll comment back and forth and help each other get up on that algorithm.
I love it. Exactly. We can all help each other. It's
exactly.
Perfect. All right, well, I will go ahead and close this out. And again, this will be available if you need to reference back to it, the recording of this session. And we really appreciate everyone's time. Thanks so much.
Thanks.